Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Now, I want to give you all kinds of disclaimers before I show you this video. And the first thing I want to say is what I call this is kind of like a hypothetical debt reset of the world slash Bradcom's pre-allocation theory is what I'm thinking about when I'm showing you this video. Now, what I've done here is first, I've put in front of you the obvious that we've talked about for a long time, which is the United States debt that I believe and most believe can never be paid off. Now, in my example, I'm using Ripple and XRP specifically as the digital asset, and in a very simplified scenario, how I believe XRP could solve this world debt problem, or the United States debt problem, and probably the world's debt problem, and what it could look like. And this is just purely me presenting a simplified version of what could happen and why in my opinion I think it could work. And so I just wanted to kind of present this to you and show you why I think it makes sense having to do with Ripple and XRP. So here we go. The first thing to look at, though, is this $22 trillion debt. Now, I've said in the past, I believe there's only one way, besides maybe digital assets, that this debt ever goes away, and that would be if two ways. World War III, which is the U.S. just says we're not going to pay it, or, well, there's three ways. One, World War III, the U.S., we're not going to pay it, and that ends up in one big disaster, The second way is if everybody decided to just forgive the debts. Now, the third way that I've come up with may be a combination of the second and the third, which is use digital assets to do a reset of the debt around the world. The first premise of what we're talking about here is that you have to believe that XRP, I believe XRP is the greatest digital asset ever created. It's the fastest, it's the most scalable. It's been proven that it can save banks 70% using XRP for settlement. And it works, okay? It's a total improvement. It takes moving money from days to seconds versus what Swift has been doing since, the 70s? Okay, if we accept that XRP has been piloted and everybody agrees that it works, here's my what if. But first, I want to show you this. All right, this is just part of what comprises this $22 trillion in national debt. This is part of what comprises it. All right. Now, these are the foreign holders of U.S. Treasury securities. These are the countries that the U.S. owes the most money to, starting with Japan at 1.1 trillion, and then you got China at 1.1 trillion, and it goes on down. United Kingdom, Brazil. I would kind of include United Kingdom with Ireland as well. Part of Ireland's in the United Kingdom. Brazil, and then Luxembourg. Now, I took these all here except for, I took Ireland out, but I took these right here just for sample purposes. But you'll see Brazil, the U.S. owes them $311 billion, United Kingdom $349 billion, $272 billion to Ireland, $244 billion to Luxembourg. Now, to present this hypothetical of mine to you, I think it's important for me to show that Ripple, these are not countries that Ripple has not been involved with. The first, Japan, let's look at it. Well, we know that SBI Holdings has formed a consortium through SBI Ripple Asia. Remember, SBI owns 10.5% of Ripple. They formed a bank consortium which basically controls 80% of the banks in Japan. Okay, well, who's number 2 on the list? China. We know that Ripple a while back was talking about China, and I believe they were talking about putting an office there. And do you remember this tweet from August 28, 2017? They welcomed China's central bank, industry, and academic leaders to Ripple headquarters to discuss the latest blockchain trends. Okay, who is next on the list? United Kingdom. Well, we've been all over this one. We know that the guy who more or less runs the UK would be the head of the Bank of England, and that would be what's his face? Mark Carney. Brad Garlinghouse, the Bank XRP tweet. Brad Garlinghouse, the Bank of England is a customer of Ripple as well as another central bank that is unannounced. We have more customers in the pipeline that we are yet to publicly announce. Okay. Now, let's go back to our list. Like I said, the UK and Ireland are kind of in the same boat. Then we've got Brazil. Okay. Turns out Ripple officially launches operations in Brazil. This is June 11th of 2019. Ripple, the global and enterprise blockchain solutions for cross-border payments, launches operations in Brazil to expand its footprint in South America. In addition, Ripple is also bringing on seasoned fintech entrepreneur and executive Luiz Antonio Sacco as managing director to drive strategy and build the Ripple ecosystem in the region. All right. So then, let me see if we had anybody else on our list. Then we've got Luxembourg. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the list. Well, when I was putting this together, I remembered somebody from Luxembourg. You remember this picture? I believe this guy right here is Pierre Gramegna, professional account of Luxembourg's Minister of Finance. And I wondered at the time, I was like, I wonder why Chris Larsen would be meeting with the finance ministers in Luxembourg. Okay, so it's excellent exchange of views with Chris Larsen. Looking forward to further development of Ripple in Luxembourg and Europe. And then let's see, and I think that gets us pretty much through our list. So now let's look at this XRP supply. This is Ripple's escrow. This is what bothers the Bitcoiners so much, is that 50 billion in escrow. Now, this is just me putting my common sense hat on, folks. When I see 50 billion in escrow, I have always believed that there is no way, that there is way too much of a spotlight on this 50 billion in escrow. And Ripple has taken way too much heat for this 50 billion in escrow to not be for a very important purpose. It makes absolutely no sense what a Bitcoiner would tell you, which is that, oh, Ripple's trying to hoard this 50 billion and they're just trying to get rich and all that. That makes absolutely no sense. These are educated people that know history. These are people that know there's no way on the planet that the United States government is going to get on board with, and these other governments around the world are going to get on board with a company that is trying to hoard 50 billion XRP that is going to take over the world and the world's movement of money and just hoard that to get themselves rich. No, that's not what that 50 billion would be used for. That 50 billion would be there knowing that the wheels of this machine have got to be greased, and there has to be a pre-allocation, an earmark to all of the people who are going to be a part of making this world change happen. It's the only thing that makes any sense. If you also look at the people at Ripple would also be looking at obvious things like, think about anybody who's ever gotten powerful, any company who's ever gotten powerful. Think about what was done to Bill Gates, the antitrust back when you had, was it Netscape versus Microsoft? Anytime a company gets too big, think about what happened to Mark Zuckerberg this week. Anytime someone gets too big, it makes governments nervous. They don't want a company or any group of people to have the kind of money that gives them the power of a country to compete with the United States or any other country. They clamp down quick. The guys at Ripple are smart enough to know this. To think that Ripple has this $50 billion XRP here in order to hoard it and become rich off of it is the dumbest. It is the most naive thought pattern that I've ever heard. Okay, which leads us to what Brad Combs' pre-allocation theory was. Well, let me show you what I think would solve some problems. Now, first of all, the premise I gave you from the beginning, which is we all agree. Any of us in the XRP community who have looked at this, we know XRP is the fastest, the most scalable, the cheapest. We know that it's the greatest digital asset ever created. And we also know that Ripple has been left alone to grow this thing. Okay? They have been left alone. As I've said before, Bob Way said they were worried when the first 10 employees were there that the FBI could kick the doors in. Well, the FBI did not kick the doors in, and to this day, the SEC is and on when it even comes up. They're scared to even address the issue of XRP. So what I'm telling you is, Brad Combs, the pre-allocation theory, there has to be some truth to that. What I'm showing you today is I'm just going to show you some numbers on a page. This is how it makes sense. Now, as I said, this is a simplified version of whatever is going on. Okay, I'm just showing you. One of the things I think I'm good at is presenting things in such a way that average people can get their mind around it. And that's what I'm trying to do with this, because I believe some variety of what I'm showing you is what has gone on. And this is why you and I as XRP holders are in a position to get freaking disgustingly wealthy from having been here and believed in this when everybody else was scared. And here's what I want to show you. We've got 50 billion in escrow. All right. Hypothetical world debt reset / pre-allocation. Just imagine these are some of the countries that comprise that 22 trillion that the United States owes in debt that we know can never be paid unless it's through some type of a method like this. Okay, so we owe Japan 1.1 trillion. What if Japan was pre-allocated 1 billion XRP? They've got 50 billion. What if Japan? Now, remember, all of this spreadsheet you're looking at, keep in mind, what you've got to think about is all of these countries agreed to accept this XRP. And this is all just me talking out loud. This is just me giving a simplified version of the type of thing, some variety of this thing is what I think has gone on. And I have no proof of it. Ripple's never said anything to me about it. Nobody has given me any proof of this. This is just me thinking out loud and telling you what I truly believe in my gut is a part of this. And it may not even be a part of any kind of debt relief or a debt reset. It may just be that it was done this way just so that everybody had skin in the game and they could benefit from this, what I would call a swift reset or a swift boot out of the system into a new system. But just imagine, so Japan is owed 1.1 trillion. Let's say that, and remember, Ripple was on the Faster Payments Task Force. These are guys, they've also met with the White House. These are guys who, and have also met, we know on record, have met with the Treasury Secretary, okay, of the United States. These are people who could have had a backroom conversation like what I'm pointing to right here. So Japan is owed 1.1 trillion. Imagine that Japan was pre-allocated or earmarked, say, $1 billion. They're owed the most. I'm sure there would be a formula in this scenario. Say they're pre-allocated $1 billion XRP, and let's say that there are, and because you know that some of these mathematicians have models on what would happen if XRP was, if all of these countries that are being pre-allocated were all a part of the game and there was an agreement in place, if they all were on the same page, you know they would have models in place that would tell them, okay, here's what the models say that XRP's value will be if it is used by all these countries that have an agreement. And so, what if that figure that the models were showing was 5,000? That's completely hypothetical on my part. And I'm trying to give you all the disclaimers possible. This is me talking out loud. What if they had models that showed $5,000 and these countries were all on board and had access to these models? And what if that was the basic behind the scenes agreement? If China, who is owed 1.1 trillion, was allocated $1 billion, these figures would come out to, if this was what the model was spitting out, do you think Japan is going to care about its debt that the U.S. owes it at 1.1 trillion any longer if they are projecting to have 5 trillion in XRP? Or China, 1.1 trillion in debt, is projected to have 5 trillion. Or I think I used the wrong country here. I didn't mean to put Ireland, I don't believe. I think I was using anyway, but it doesn't matter. The point is, United Kingdom knew that they would see around 1.75 trillion. Now, if all of these countries were on board and they all had some type of agreement in place, which I have no idea if that happened, but I'm just telling you hypothetically, if they did, and they all knew that the monies of the world were going to be bridged with XRP and that the models showed certain figures, would this not be a win-win for the world? I believe it would. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that this is purely a hypothetical world debt reset pre-allocation video by me, and there may be completely nothing to this. I'm just purely throwing this out to you to see what you think. Thank you for listening.